Springboks initial squad for the Rugby Championship has been named, folks, with a bit of a caveat that this is just the squad to take on the Wallabies. They're going to update the squad as the Rugby Championship goes on and as we head towards games against the All Blacks and the Pumas. But for the squad to play the Wallabies, we have 37 players named. We have some guys out injured. We have some guys on the standby list, plus some under-20s joining in. Initial impressions of the squad looks pretty good. There are a few kind of guys towards the front side of the forward pack who are looking lower in terms of the number of caps they've got. The locks and loosies are still looking stacked, but your props and hookers, there are a few inexperienced guys there. And as I said, there's a lot of experience on the standby list, but we'll go through the squad pretty quick and you guys can let us know your thoughts. I am a big fan of having these under 20 guys in the training camp. They've called up 3 of them. I haven't been watching a heck of a lot of the under-20s. I did watch the highlights of the game where they beat the Junior All Blacks. But you guys will have to give me your tips on who to look out for from the under-20s. As I said, they've called up 3 guys. Obviously, they're not going to play, but they are in that training squad, and it does show that Rassie's got an eye on the future. I love the idea of getting the youngsters in. They learn from the veterans. The coaches can get hands-on with them in training and, you know, tell them what to work on and all this kind of stuff. It's a win-win, I think, for everybody. The veterans get to kind of play that mentor role, and then, you know, you start to build cohesion with guys just by training together. So I like having those guys in. 3 of them is enough to be manageable without being disruptive, and it'll be very valuable experience for those guys going forward. The standby and non-selection list, Thomas du Toit has to have a rest for a couple of weeks because of his long season with Bath, so maybe saving him for the All Blacks. I am partly looking at this squad just with an eye on some upcoming matches here in New Zealand, but obviously the Aussies are first up, and that's where all the focus will be. But Thomas du Toit getting a rest now maybe makes him available for New Zealand a wee bit later. Faf de Klerk, remember, he did take a bit of a knock against the Georgians, so maybe it makes sense to rest him now as well. Mapimpi and are both, again, a couple of your World Cup winning veterans who are still on the standby list. Again, maybe hints towards eye on the future and starting to build more depth instead of just relying on the veterans as they kind of slowly transition. But again, like, hasn't had rugby for a while. He's been injured for a wee while, so yes, good guys to call up if needs be. Then some of the guys who've been more on the fringes, like Salman Murat, Evan Roos. Like, honestly, once Hanekom and Lowe and Visa got suspended and whatnot, like with the injuries to the other guys, you would have thought Evan Roos can just kind of stroll into the number 8 jersey, but it ain't that simple for him. He's still on the standby list, and then a couple of the new caps, Vincent Chituka and Nethling Fushi, are still on the standby list as well. So there's guys they can call up. Jasper Wiese is still suspended for 4 weeks. Steenekamp is still injured. Klein is still injured. And then Hanekom and Lowe, Elric Lowe, like I mentioned, are still injured. So there's a number of players to call upon. The mixture of experience and, you know, some of the new guns as well. Plus a few guys to return from injury. For the guys actually selected, when I say maybe the forwards are a little bit less experienced, I'm looking at the fact that, like in the props, you got Ntlabakanye, who's only just been capped. You've got Boanfenta, who's just been capped. You got Marius van der Merwe, who's just been capped, and Johan Hendrik Wessels, and still I feel like relatively low in his number of caps. But then you've got that balanced alongside like Vincent Koch, Wilco Lowe, Oxen Chi, like all these guys have been around the block. Malcolm Marks, Bongi, and Mbambi. So there's certainly a balance of the new guns and old guns in that squad. I'm really happy for Ntlabakanye and Boanfenta. Boanfenta especially just seems to, with everything I've seen around him, just mean a lot. And his route to getting into the Springboks, I guess, same with Marius van der Merwe, has been a little bit less than conventional. But yeah, seeing both those guys get debut tries was cracking. It's obviously going to be a step up against the Wallabies compared to playing Georgia at home. But yeah, you feel like those guys have got, you know, a ceiling that they haven't yet quite reached, and the Springbok coaches will be looking to get the most out of them. Same with Ntlabakanye, man. Like, yeah, it seems like he's getting a bit more mobile and whatnot with a bit of weight loss. He's always been big and physical, so see what these guys can do in Rugby Championship times. Locks and loosies are pretty stacked. I think, I mean, Diaka, after that long layoff from the Boks, came back and didn't miss a beat. Eben seems to be recovering well from the concussions that he's had in recent times. Norkia got man of the match the other day. Mostert's always been that reliable workhorse. Snyman, the offloading impact from the bench. And then Cobus Visa, if he's a lock or he's a loose forward, is one of the kind of, again, relatively new caps. But they really seem to trust him. They replaced You know, Jasper with Korbas at number 8 for that last game, which was a little bit of a left field call, but yeah, he's still in the squad, so they obviously think pretty highly of him. And then Lucy's Peter Steff, Jean-Luc Dupria, Seo Kolisi, Kwaka Smith, Michael van Staden. You're pretty stacked. There's no real, you know, uncapped or low caps guns there. These guys are all veterans who've been there and done it before. Scrum halves, again, without Faf, Kobus Ronak is your most experienced guy at like 35 years old. Grant Williams has been running some pretty bloody slick support lines and getting that ball wide, which is pleasing to see. Moine van der Berg adding to his caps as well. I think he got to play some games not in the rain for a change. How many caps is he up to now? Must be 3 or 4. Pleasing to see for him as well after such, you know, a long stint with the Lions. Looking like he's the business. He's again taken to the part in the green and gold. The fly halves, Pollard, Libok, and Feinberg and Gomazulu. You got some choices to make there. Obviously, Sasha's work with the boot was a little bit erratic the other day, and then Hondre made it look worse by coming off the bench and slotting a penalty from the, not a penalty, a conversion from the sideline to show you that he's still there. And he scored a try as well, did old Hondre. And then Mani was pulling the strings pretty slick when he got his last cap a couple of games ago. Well, like spinning that ball wide, like seems like only Mani can. I don't know. He's got a very, very attractive ball in hand attacking game, especially when you don't have to worry about that guy's goal kicking. You feel like he is certainly a guy to watch. So, yep, no real surprise there. I think midfielders, the Allende, Esterhazen, Hooker, Creel, and Moody, and Hooker obviously got the visit. I mean, the other guys as well. Creel can slot into the wings and other positions as well if needs be. Ethan Hooker is one of the few backs in the squad who's one of the recent kind of caps. Most of the recent caps in terms of the July series are in the forwards, but it seems pretty stable there. And the back three is very, very exciting. Arends, Colby, Willems, Fassi, Van der Merwe. Really pleased for Van der Merwe because he was just chasing everything in his recent games, which is really pleasing to see. High work rate guy, and you know, caps it off with some tries. And then Villy, the kind of the veteran there as well, as they are shifting away from the veterans. Guys like Corbus Reinach and Willie Leroux, like especially in the backs, are maybe starting to stand out a little bit more. But yeah, like I said, I think the squad will be rotated around. I think some of the veterans, you know, like Faf and, you know, potentially Mapimpi and whatnot, certainly get called back into the squad as other games come up in the Rugby Championship. But they will be big-time favourites against the Wallabies at home. They're going to be giving more experience to some of the new caps. They'll be training with the under-20s guys. I think you'd be largely pretty happy. Maybe Evan Ross, and he's on the standby list. Seems like the guy who needs to just do whatever Rassie says in terms of work-ons, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. Every team seems to have that guy. Like here in New Zealand, it's like Hoskins Satutu is pretty well loved by fans of this fan base here in the Blues, but for whatever reason isn't as appreciated at the international level by the head honchos. So Rassie will have his reasons, and Rassie knows what he's doing. But yeah, he's still on the standby list. By no means out of it, old Evan Ross. But you guys let us know your thoughts on the squad. Would you like to have like Faf and, you know, Lacanio and Makazole in the squad? Are you happy to see some of the under-20s guys training in? How do you think they're going to go? And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.